and welcome to my channel. This is your reading for Virgo for 2019. You guys voted for Virgo the most. If you're watching for a different sign or cross-watching or wanting to watch for your sun, moon, or rising, make sure to comment down below to tell me which sign to do next. The sign with the most upvotes is the one that's going to get done next. So I'm going to go really slow with these. This is a reading that I actually did for you guys in February, and because of some technical reasons I have to redo it, sort of. What we're going to do is listen to the original audio of the video, and I'm going to use these cards in order to show you the cards that I'm talking about. We're going to do astrology to take a look at your love life in 2019 for Sun, Moon, and Rising Virgo. And at the end, I'm going to do a clarifier round, or more of a summary piece, because I have completed doing all the 2019 videos, and I have some kind of understanding or some type of opinion about what's going to happen, how it's going to look like, and I'm going to use the Journey of Love Tarot. So even if you did see the video on Vimeo, thank you for supporting my channel that way. But if you have seen the video on Vimeo, then please stick around and watch the end of this. There will be some new content there. So I hope you guys are doing well. We're going to just jump right into the video because this one's a long one. It ended up being half an hour. And then make sure to like and comment. So in short, this is your love, astrological, and tarot overview for 2019. And we're going to use the Tarot of Dreams. In the audio, you're going to hear me talking about the Monera Tarot. So this is the deck I can't use on YouTube anymore. So we're going to be just using the same cards as the Monera Tarot. So the same tarot card that came up in that reading will be shown here, but it's the Tarot of Dreams. So if I'm making a reference to some kind of picture in the card, you have to go over to Vimeo and watch it there. Okay, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy this show. Thank you for your upvotes, and I'll talk to you soon, okay? Hey Virgo, thank you for joining me and welcome to my channel. This is a reading for 2019, and it's a love reading based on your sun, moon, and rising. If you're watching this on YouTube, then most likely this is in March, and in which case welcome and thank you for joining me. And if you're watching on Vimeo, then you probably got the February by all option, and so you're watching this for the year. So what this reading does is it divides the year into 3 parts astrologically, and I'm also picking some tarot cards from the Monera Tarot here, which I'll kind of divide into 3 parts as well and talk about your love life. I found this very beneficial. We're going to discuss specifically 4 houses, namely the 5th house of romance and romantic intimacy, the 7th house of partnership in terms of romance, the 8th house of the physical, intimate aspects of our nature, and then the 11th house, which is friendship, in which I often think that really good relationships evolve out of. Okay, so we're going to take a look first at the period of April, in which will represent, sorry, I'm just getting into this, which will represent the spring. And then we're going to take a look at July with the eclipses, which will represent the summer period, and then October, when that will represent the fall and winter. Okay, so just as an overview, you've probably heard me mention this already. You have a ton of planets in your 5th house. So 5th house is romance. It's like the dating and romantic things, romantic intimacy, flowers, chocolate, that kind of thing. And so with these heavy planets, specifically Saturn, we are going against the grain a little bit. However, some really profound moments can emerge with the transit of these 3 planets through April. As you can see, there's no transits here. Actually, there won't be any transits until the winter when Jupiter moves into Capricorn. So for now, if you've gotten through the early spring and early late winter, early spring in 2019, then most likely this will stay pretty consistent. All 3 of these planets are karmic planets, which represents like deep questions about who you are and what you represent in this world. And so that is going to be continually unpacked. You might be experiencing some kind of perplexing circumstances and situations. Everybody has that somewhere in their life. For you, especially if you're dating, that's where it may emerge. A new form of you could actually emerge through this time, especially if you get connected with a past life you have been not paying attention to before. The next set of transits is in your 7th house, and we can see here at the mid-April point, this is April 16th, we don't see Lilith here yet, but she's moving in the mid-spring into like late April, early May. But we do see Venus here, Neptune and Mercury. And the good news is that in February, Chiron will have left the 7th house for the next 50 years. This would have been a very difficult transit for you in terms of partnership. Chiron in the 7th house, it's like and especially in Pisces, it's like the ambiguous issue that's coming up for you and your partners, and relationships seem to fail for very, very odd reasons. Some of these things could be very deep, very kind of psychological, in the dream state even. It could feel like you're meeting people and it's sort of kind of a metaphysical, or like a very kind of strange energy issue that's going on between you and them, especially in romantic relationships. So when Chiron actually leaves finally Pisces for the second time, it actually left last year for the first time, but now for the 50-year transit around the zodiac, you are going to have a big break that you haven't actually felt in about 7 years. So this is like your difficulties with relationships are going to become much less prominent in that area of partnership. Venus will also trail right behind and kind of scoop up the pieces and bring love into your life. On that level, maybe you'll have the opportunity to reconcile or fix certain things. We do have a Mercury retrograde in Pisces in March, so you might have an opportunity to reconcile, to talk about things that went awry in the past, and repair or improve partnerships. Remember, this is probably the most active time of year for you to get things done until late April, early May, when Lilith moves into the 7th house. So you want to use this period between late January and late April to really address partnership issues and put in the work. That's when you're going to have a lot more room to navigate. Once Lilith moves into your 7th house, you've got the open enemy in your house for 10 months in your 7th house. So this is a tough transit. The nice thing about it, the silver lining, is that you know exactly who it is. So this is the open enemy, this is the hidden enemy. So you see Lilith where she's coming. Your goal is to just avoid and decoy. And I'm guessing that once you do so, things will really clear up for you. So I know it seems like a long transit, but in 10 months, you will see a drastic improvement in terms of these sequence of events that have been happening in your life, particularly with regard to your relationships with other people. So with Chiron, it's going to improve a little bit, and then it's going to finally get much better once Lilith leaves this area of your house. Your number one priority with Lilith in the 7th house is to avoid and not get into conflict. Lilith has a tendency to drag us in through the mud, and even if she leaves, if we get too involved, and I've made that mistake before, you can have years of consequences from engaging the energy. I was trying to problem solve an energy like this when I was in my 20s, and it had a lot of consequences. And that's how I started paying attention to that. And in the 8th house, the house of physical intimacy, we have Chiron moving in. So it might be a more vulnerable time with regard to your intimate life. You might be very, very cautious of anyone who may disrespect your intimate expression. So don't put yourself into precarious situations. Don't play with that energy at all. But in the spring, you do have the sun moving through in March and April in Aries, and Mercury will follow in April and May. So you're going to have a lot of opportunity to communicate with your partner or seek out that communication with someone new. So there could be a lot of opportunity. This is Vesta, also this natural beauty in the 8th house. So you do have very nice transit. Chiron is going to be in this area for 7 years. So it's the house of change and endings. I think Chiron will affect us much more in that side of things. But if you do have some intimate issues with your intimacy, then maybe that will be a more vulnerable time. Usually with a Chiron transit, it's less about what's happening and more about how we feel inside, so we become more sensitive and issues from the past keep on coming to the forefront of our mind. I know I'm getting into details here, but in fact, for your chart, all of these shifts are happening in the spring. So when we go through the summer and the winter, you're going to see me go through this very quickly. So this is pretty much it for the first 3 houses. In terms of your 11th house, the house of friendship, the North Node is here, and we'll talk about this in the next section, the section of summer. But for now, you're really longing, we're all longing to go a certain direction in our lives. And because there are no transits with the North Node, we feel like we can't get there, that we feel like we can't reach that goal or that direction that we're trying to achieve. So I feel like it's on you to kind of be patient with yourself, and even though you may be very much longing for friendship, fraternity, sisterhood, those kinds of things, I feel like with a little bit of patience, things will come around of their own nature. You're going to have a lot of energy sucking you back into the 5th house, in which you are dealing with issues of children, issues of your individual passions, of where you want to direct your life, and then that's going to take up a lot of your energy and attention. So when you are really wanting to reach for the North Node, the direction you feel like you want to go, that's a spiritual transit, much more so than practical. You're going to feel like there's a lack of purpose, there's a lack of direction that leads you there. You might feel as though it's something that you can't necessarily achieve or reach. Okay, so it's almost like it's almost beyond your reach. So there's that feeling in the summertime in July. I'll show you in a minute how that's going to change. So hold tight with that one. But but with that sense of longing, if you're feeling a little lonely, if you're feeling a little alone, you know, the message is don't be. And in fact, everybody has that going on somewhere in their chart. And so instead of feeling bad about it, just hope that you will find a solution and be patient with it. It is a transit thing that's affecting everybody. There's this sense of longing that people are experiencing. Okay, so your first card is the Empress. So this is femininity. Of course, with so many transits in the 8th house and the 5th house, femininity, both motherhood of males, both of these, Pluto and Saturn, are masculine transits. The South Node is sort of neutral, karmic, although I think that we can agree that human history is riddled with patriarchy, so we can argue that there's like a legacy of reconnecting with the feminine, which is something that the masculine struggles with because of the way that history has unfolded. So that's that. Also, with regard to Venus, Venus will be here from I guess early April or late March until late April or early May. And so these 2 houses are the houses like of relationships, intimacy, and partnership. And she is ruled by Venus. So I think that there is a focus on your beauty, on your aesthetic, on how you appear to the world. You can see also there's no transits here in terms of your houses of how you represent yourself to the world. It's an understated time for Virgo. We're very much more in, not the shadows like shadowy Virgo, but we're much more hidden. We're not as front and center anymore. And we had been for the last few years. Now it's time to regroup and kind of learn from everything that we were given. We were given quite a bit all at once between 2014, 2013, and 2016 or so. And now there's like a de-emphasis of Virgo, which is actually something that Virgo will do really well with. Here is the next message. We have the Seven of Air. And so I feel as though you're making decisions about which direction you want to go. There may be desires that you're playing out in your life. However, I feel like you're going to be very, very cautious with the energies that you entertain, because you sense this is intense, you know, this is a lot of past life stuff. So you may feel like you're not going to haphazardly venture into any relationship that presents itself to you. Next, we have the Temperance card. This is the card of Sagittarius. And so I feel like there are certain offers that could be coming through for you in the springtime. Jupiter's in the 4th house of home and family. Ceres is here as well. Those of you who are already in relationships, this is going to be a wonderful time to kind of commit to another person, be it an engagement or something else. I feel as though you may be cautious with it for a while. I think the adjustment to Chiron is going to be quite a lot in late February, early March. I do feel like you've got a taste of it last year. So if you got through it okay last year, most likely this is going to be maybe not a piece of cake, but not necessarily so difficult either. I do feel like you are kind of that alluring quality of backing off on a situation and allowing another person to come around of their own volition will really solidify the relationships that are healthy at this time. If not, then I think that you will choose to go on your own in a particular direction and find something beautiful within yourself to celebrate. And I feel like that is going to be something that you have the space and the availability to really craft and create, you know, on a larger scale. So you'll have the opportunity to refine yourself, refine something about yourself, something about your life. Okay, so that took a long time because all those transits were all together at once. But now let's take a look at the summer. So again, there's not many transit, there's actually no change here. This is the moon, which is in every single house for 2.5 days. Here we have Lilith moving in the summer, so this is when you really need to be cautious. You're not going to be fooled about who's your enemy, so your only goal is going to be avert and not to interact with this energy. This is a partnership vibe too, so it's like somebody is overstepping boundaries in a purposeful way, and so it's important for you to keep your guard up and not engage, because if you engage you will lose out on it. Even if you win, you will lose out on it. It's a useless energy. That's what I think about Lilith. I think it's everything else, even Saturn. I really fight for Saturn. I really like Saturn low-key, but I fight for all the transits because I feel like through difficulty, or Chiron, you know, I think Chiron's a good thing, but even transits that are difficult like Chiron and Saturn, you can say that they're for a productive reason. You gain insight and intuition. With Lilith, I feel it's like petty and sad, you know, use of energy. So if you know who your opponent is, if you know who your antithesis is, who's antithetical to who you are, who's opposing you, who's your enemy, then you stay away from that person. And then we have Chiron in the 8th house. This is a vulnerability in your intimate life if you have one. It might be also a vulnerability with regard to other people's resources. So if you're in a partnership and you're sharing resources and that has been an issue, that's going to feel very, very heavy at this time. Sorry to say it, it's true. Or if you have issues to do with endings or death, those kinds of things can come to the forefront. That doesn't mean that people will die, and it doesn't mean that your financial status is going to become very rocky. Like I said, Chiron usually depicts a situation in which we feel more vulnerable, okay? So this is the transit for the summer. that really brings light and attention to the North Node in Cancer. And this is your 11th house of friendship. So everything from June until August or July, you will, until early August, let's put it that way, is going to flare up for you in the way of socializing, social life in a productive way. Use your time wisely, Virgo, because this transit is not that prevalent in your chart at this time. These are all inner planets. They'll visit this point once a year, but they're not going to be here for very long. So you have like a 6 to 8 week window in which, when people start knocking on your door to socialize, to be friendly, to be friends, or maybe in terms of love, because Venus is here, if like a friend is opening up the door to love, if you want it, then it's time to go through it. So pay attention to this transit about June until August. I'll remind you in the videos. Okay, so let's see what tarot cards you guys got for summer, and then we'll move on to winter and finish up. So we have the Four of Earth. So resistance to change. I feel as though caution, taking caution in all things romantic, in all things to do with partnership. Remember, sometimes when we're too cautious, we give off cues to the people that want to take advantage. So we are actually shooting ourselves in the foot by being overly cautious sometimes. So make sure that you're not giving off the wrong signals, or that you're not being, you know, like a deer in the headlights sort of thing. Somebody called me once a deer in the headlights, my boss actually, and I was like, wow, okay. And he like, I knew him the entire time, and then this was when he was leaving, and he said, one of the last times that like I got a chance to speak with him, and he said that, and he had this beard, and suddenly he seemed like the wolf, and I was like, oh my goodness, this was like totally scary. Like this guy who was like all peace and love, kumbaya, whatever, he actually, when he said that, I was like, oh, you have a different layer to your personality I didn't see. See, that's Lilith in your 12th house, that hidden thing, and Lilith in the 7th house is when you see them. Although this person was definitely not my nemesis or my rival or in any way, but it was just that funny conversation. And that deer in the headlights kind of idea kind of gives off clues to the wrong people, and so be careful, you know, be careful of how you are portraying yourself or how other people see you. At the center you have the sun, so you're going for something 100%. It feels like maybe there has been all these transits that were here in Virgo in 2014 and 15. I feel like they gave you a lot of food for thought, and you've spent the last couple years unpacking them and figuring them out, maybe releasing some relationships from that time period, or maybe renegotiating some of the things that happened to you during that time in your mind. And so now you're sort of free. You're free to go in a new direction. I think that you, if you feel empowered to, should test your karmic reality here. Like, what is your karmic truth that you're playing out? Take a look at it, maybe test it if you have room in your life to kind of explore through the things that you feel passionate about. This is the house of passion, and like not only romantic passion, but I mean things that you're interested in. Explore those things and give it a challenge, because I think that you're really taking a diversion from where you've been. Here is the next message. The other signs are going to kill me because I'm really getting in deep with you. We have the Nine of Swords here, so I feel like interesting, you know, these things are gonna, some of these things are gonna be hard to contend with. I feel like you're gonna see why certain things are happening in the way that they are, and not in the sense that you have a certain behavioral trait, blah blah, like that's a first house thing. This is karma. So this is happening because your ancestor went through this or that. So you're having these shocks and realizations, apparitions, maybe not apparitions in the way of ghosts, but apparitions in through other people, like you're experiencing truths, and there are messages coming through your experiences with other people that somehow mirror the truth so that you see it, you know? And so I feel like you have to take good effort to try to challenge the energy, to present yourself boldly towards it, and while still avoiding confrontation. That's very important. And if you're in a confrontation with your partner in some stage of divorce, if you can put it off 10 months it is what it is. But then you have the house of endings and Lilith there too. So it's really a 20-month transit in which some marriages, I get lots of clients who are waiting for the perfect time. So maybe 2 years is a year and a half. Sorry to tell you this, but that's the reality. Or you want to get it in really quick right here, but you want to figure that timing out. So yeah, just there are some thorns on these roses. Basically, that's what I'll call this reading. I just realized. Okay, so let's take a look at your October chart. This is for the fall. Same sort of deal here, but Jupiter is going to move into the 5th house. 2020 is going to be a very romantic year. This is going to be a romantic year as well, depending on what type of romance you like, but this is going to be a perplexing romance, like perplexing romantic year, romances that are going to make you think. And this is for the winter time, spring and summer. And then we have Neptune with Lilith. Now she's heading towards Aries. She will leave Pisces, I think, next year in January. So in 2020. So for the time being, you're avoiding this one. Chiron goes retrograde, doesn't go back into Pisces. This period between the summer and the fall is gonna help you realize why you are hurt, especially if you have intimacy issues. You'll understand why you are hurt, and you'll really face some of those things and unpack those. So if you need help with it, go see a counselor. This is a perfect time to work out any personal stuff that you have to do with these things, or abandonment issues. This is the house of endings. So if you need counseling, this is the perfect strategy to utilize. Again, the North Node is all by itself. Again, you're reaching for something that you don't know how to get there. You'll find a way, it's just not right now, so don't spin your wheels or feel bad about it. It's not just, it's because there's a lack of aspects. If you're really, really upset, the rule of thumb is you want to find a person who has Cancer transit, Sun, Moon, or rising, Venus, Mars. I have Venus in Cancer. My readings may help you. Or you can wait for the Moon to transit through Cancer. Every month the Moon will be in Cancer for 2.5 days. Those will be your days of illumination. Those are going to be your days in which you kind of feel like you can get into these social situations a bit closer. So wait for those days. You can look up on astro.com or something and figure it out. Okay, so let's take a look at your cards. We have the Chariot, which is overcoming situations. Look at all these trumps going through. This is also the sign, this is also ruled by Cancer. This is Sagittarius. This is Sun in Capricorn. So just in case you're curious. And this is the Sun at the center, because this is the Sun card. I don't know if I said that because I was explaining the astrology. So this in the center, when you get the Sun, it's like you're fine, you're good. Here is the next message. We have the Two of Air. I think that you're going to put some things at ease in your mind, especially some of the things that you're confronting. I think early on in the year, you're going to dip out or leave a situation quickly, and then it's going to kind of come back and need you to address it. And then towards the end of the year, I think that you'll find peace in the situation. And it's a karmic piece. And then the outcome is the Nine of Water, which is a fulfillment of wishes, which is Jupiter and Pisces. So it's all heading towards something that you truly want. And I feel like you're taking a risk here. This is a risk throughout the whole year. A risk of your femininity if you're a woman who's watching, or a man, or whatever kind of association you find truth in. But I think the feminine is taking a risk, and she keeps on pushing that risk forward in order to actualize something that she wants. She has to come and make peace with a situation. She really has to spend some time and make peace with a circumstance, avoid the humiliation she's feeling, or avoid the humiliation she's trying to avoid. It's something I see a lot on social media and in general in our society, is that there's this way of humiliating people in this kind of men doing it to women, and I suppose women doing it to men, but way more men doing it to women. And the consequences of this type of sexual harassment, it is a type of sexual harassment, is that timidity, right? Someone feels timid or unable to stand up. It's real psychological abuse, and I feel like on some level that's been played out on you. there, I said it. I feel like you're unpacking some sexual harassment that's happened to you in a very covert manner, like dominoes, like somebody set you in a trap to feel a certain way. And if you're struggling with this, definitely get counseling, but also know that you will reconcile this and find a solution. Okay, Virgo, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoy and have a happy February and rest of the year. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye. Hey guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry I was having technical difficulties throughout. We're filming in a few days before Mercury retrograde, but I definitely got messages, and thank you for everybody who was commenting while we were watching the video. I'm going to do some clarification and summary now, so and I'm going to pull 9 more cards, so sit tight for that. Okay, so the main energy, as I was working through the energy, I think that basically Virgo is expressing a new level of their femininity. If you're a male Virgo who's watching, then there's a new connection to the feminine energy around you at this time. I feel as though there's something kind of creeping and crawling at you from the past, and I think that this is you sort of getting away from it. Oftentimes people say the Seven of Swords is like a negative card, but excuse me, but I have an Aquarian moon, and what that I find does, it gets me out of a lot of predicaments because I see the trouble and I sort of, you know, dip out on it. I leave a situation behind. I feel as though somebody's been really crafty with you, Virgo. Somebody either in a romantic situation or something else. Someone's been really kind of crafty, making up something, making up lies, putting you into difficult circumstances. And I think that you know that you need to get away from that person or that situation as soon as possible. I think you did stand your ground. I think that you still are the creator. You were the one who kind of has. So it's not that you had interjected on someone else, it's that someone else had interjected on your creation or on something that you were doing. So you're fine, your karma's set. And you know, usually the people who are kind of wiling out, people who are being crafty, are the people who are trying to make something out of nothing, right? So they're the ones who are trying to justify their goals. But so I think that that's what's going on. At the end of the video, I was saying that you're going to have to confront it again. I think there's going to be considerable pressure on you from someone that you're exposed to. This is a love reading, so this could be a situation with an ex-partner who in some way wants to capture you again, hold on to something that's gone. Maybe they screwed it up and now they want you to in some way stick around, to hold on to the energy that they realize they have lost. In the reading, I said this was the Four of Pentacles. I made a mistake while doing the reading. It was actually the Four of Wands. I would still take the advice that I said in line with the rest of the reading, but it's more hopeful now. I think that your focus is going to be really around your home and around stable relationships that are trustworthy. So this is more about focusing in on the right kind of energy as opposed to clinging to the negative. I think as Virgos, we are going to have quite a considerable difficulty with Lilith in our 7th house and Chiron in our 8th house. That's what a lot of this reading was me picking up on. The fact that there is going to be some kind of direct confrontation or direct contention for who we are and what we're about. I think that it's you know, when something latches onto you, it's almost like that type of energy, and you can sense it, you can feel it, it's all around you. And sometimes it's like, you know, how do you say, you park in somebody's parking stall at work or whatnot, and you didn't know it was their parking stall, so they get mad at you for it. Well, when a person's latching on, they can like use that as a catalyst or as a justification for continually kind of approaching you in this way. So there is a lot of this kind of watching over your shoulder, knowing that someone is, you have exposure to someone who's unreasonable. How do we say, that's the best way to say it. So unfortunately, I think that you cross paths with someone who has a dubious nature. And I feel like for some of you, this is intimate, but this is like a personal relationship, maybe a Sagittarius, a personal relationship with someone who is just trying to make their way theirs. And I do feel as though they have the feeling that if they say enough to it, if they push they're bullies. So it's this kind of bully energy. If they put enough energy behind their lies, that they're going to be able to make it through. And I think that it's a misconception, misunderstanding, but you're their guinea pig in a way. Like you're the person they're playing out this delusion on. And unfortunately, a big part of this year is going to be you kind of dealing with that. I think it's a temporary thing that happened once in your life, and we all have a chance of experiencing something like this, maybe even several times, but the point is that it's not something to do with like what is your fate or your destiny. You just had some weird transits, a bout of bad luck, and this kind of magnetic attraction to kind of a negative energy. So what else did I say? That's the difficult side of it, right? The good side of it is that you're very empowered this year, and I think that you should really cherish the things that you have going on, the things that you have offer. And I think that in some way you are going to get much more. There's people who, so in even a bad situation, there's an opportunity for good. So as you are in some way contending with the negative influence of another person, and you're trying to get away from it and kind of remove yourself from that situation completely, there's other people who are paying attention. Sorry about the cards being gunky like this, but there's other people who are paying attention. There's other people who are aware of what's going on, or who are conscious and who are aware, and I think that they're bringing you to some good things. So for every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. That doesn't mean that you have to react to something, but sooner or later, things are going to really evil out. I think that you're going to have a very nice time through the summer. And unfortunately, when you feel that level of goodness coming into your life, I think that I'm sorry to say this, but that's when you need to kind of watch your back, because I think that this energy is looking for you to not look. This energy is looking, but you see it because Lilith is in your 7th house. So it's up to you to kind of pay attention and trust that at the end of it all, everything's going to come together nicely. The evil is not going to persevere. You got out of the way of this in the springtime. So in the early part of the year, this is when it's feeling the most intense, or the most like you're getting picked on, like you're right under somebody's thumb. But as the year goes on, you get further and further away from the situation, while at the same time, I feel like you're getting further and further away from a situation, while at the same time, it's sort of still trying to prove its point, although that point is no longer there's no need to point. There is no need to make proof of it anymore. It's almost like somebody has lost a debate and they are still grumbling about it, and you're kind of the subject of that attention. So but you definitely are going to persevere, and I think you're going to persevere through it at the help or at the interjection of other people. So other people are paying attention, and they're going to help you through in some way. So here are my favorite cards. This is the Journey of Love Oracle. If you're interested in this deck, you can get it at my store on Amazon. So we have the Acceptance. I think this is the deeper level. I think this is coming through as kind of karmic, so let's take it at that. I think that you stepped into a greater level of self-acceptance, because I think that this resonates with the Empress. It's a more of an unapologetic nature, which will, whenever you ascend to a level of awareness, whenever you accept yourself more or whatnot, you're going to be exposed to people who have issues with that. So you're going to be up against new types of people who in some way are going to let's see, contest the position that you are taking, the position that you have kind of going on. The next message is the hidden beauty. So I think that, like, it's not your place to explain to other people your workings or the way that you approach things, the way that you resolve circumstances in your life. I feel like you have more to defend yourself with than is, how do you say this? You have more to defend yourself with than you may have given yourself credit for. And so I think that you have nuance about you. And I think that whoever's come at you, it's been very superficial in some way. It's not been very effective in any way. It's just, unfortunately, sometimes it's a time waster situation where someone's latched on. Angel of Jupiter awakened. So ironically, the Temperance card is Sagittarius, who is Jupiter, who is ruled by Jupiter, and so this is kind of in some way suggesting that there is some kind of beneficial energy that's coming into you, in for you early on. Maybe you can get away from a bad situation because someone has had a spark of awareness, and I think it's going to lead to the positive outcome. I think maybe you say something without knowing or without really being fully self-aware, and you say something, someone hears something, you do something informally, they see what you're doing, and it clarifies the issue. You can't control it. You can't, like, go around trying to plead your case. You're just going to do what you do, and through your genuine actions, towards your genuine expression, I think that someone's getting awareness about your circumstance and about what's happened. So if you have been victimized or if you have been treated poorly, I think that definitely stand up for yourself if you feel you need to. However, I think that the astrological and tarot advice is kind of sit tight, and help is on its way. Here is the next message. She is the moon. So I feel like, yeah, a lot of time at home is really, really helpful at this time. A lot of downtime, self-acceptance, just enjoying your space, enjoying your surroundings. Going slow is going to be a big part of the summer. And as you go slow, you'll find exactly where to love again. I think, like, your heart in the summertime will really spark up, possibly through friends and social connections. That's when I was saying in the video that there are all the transits in your 11th house. So I feel like there's this robust, loving energy that sparks up for you, maybe in July as you reconnect. So I feel like the circumstance that happened early on in the year, maybe in the winter time or in the early spring, in some way shut down your heart, Virgo. And so when your heart shuts down, you have a harder time to make the connection with appropriate people, and that's kind of the damage of certain actions, right, and how they affect us. People become isolated when they're being treated like that, and I think informally that in some way people who do those kinds of things, that's their agenda, right? So in some way hold us back from making connections with others, to isolate the victim and make them feel like they are alone. So that's a very narcissistic motivation, but I think that that's kind of the part of how bullying goes. And this could have been in some kind of love relationship. So your partner could have been bullying you, your partner's mom. I just got that as a message. So there could have been like a triangulation situation going on, something that really kind of messed with your mind. And I actually didn't see that, but now I'm seeing it as I heard the video. So I think there's been a bit of triangulation, and by summertime you're going to kind of get back into yourself. You're still going to feel traumatized by the situation, and I don't mean to trigger someone. If you have trauma, go get help. But I think that there is a kind of, you're worried about it coming back to you because it sort of caught you so off guard that now you are it caught you so off guard that now you're kind of looking over your shoulder. In terms of tarot and astrology, that is only temporary, but I would never say that to just anyone, so be careful, because if you feel like that way, if you're traumatized that way, then you probably need counseling or some kind of emotional assistance for that, because that's a pretty deep kind of type of trauma where you feel paranoid that somebody else is going to hurt you, and that's a fallout from being treated poorly. So I think that in some way, but in terms of the astrology and tarot, I do feel like there is positive energy that is going to lift you up. So you're expecting bad things to happen, but waves and waves of encouraging energy is going to come through. So the universe is going to give you reinforcing positive and kind energy, as opposed to the energy that reverberates with the low vibration. The next card we have is contemplation. Someone is going to spend a lot of time thinking about a situation. Somebody's going to really think things through in a deep way. And so I feel like and I think that it's whoever's paying attention is a careful observer. So what they're paying attention to is like, how do you say, nuanced things, delicate things. And in some way I feel as though they're coming to realize things that other people may have not been paying attention to. They may not have noticed. We have the Woman of Light next. So I think that if you just stick to your guns, I don't think it's even a question of whether you're right or wrong. I think that you just need to kind of carefully stick to your guns and hold on tight to your truth and wait for your heart to open again in the summertime. And I think that that will become quite natural. And then we have the Dance of the Planets, which is the Nine of Cups. So it's kind of like a pendulum swinging. It's going to swing right back into position. It's almost like someone's pushed the pendulum out of its natural course, and now it's going to swing back and return back to the order that it's meant to be in. So I feel like if you're wondering about destiny and love, I feel like you're not going to lose your place in line. You're not going to miss out on this connection. You can see two figures here, right? And they're in some way kind of together. So I think that you're heading to a closer union. I am not one to say, oh, everything has a silver lining, or we learn something from every situation and therefore we become stronger by it. Sometimes bad situations are bad. However, I do feel like in this situation, this experience has given you a lot of strength. And once you get to a place of depersonalizing it, where you see that you just cross paths with a shady person with shady behaviors, and this will reverberate in other situations as well. So where you see this character in other people. So take note, Virgo. This is something that is going to kind of be something that you should observe. Lilith in the 7th house, you see what they're like. This is when the enemy is unveiled. So you see the character. And really get to know it well, because once you get to know it, then you'll be empowered, and then you can know that your heart can be open and trust and feel good again. And I think that that's where you're going. So you're going to get your wish, and I think you don't have to wait until the end of the year for it, but I think that there will be a feeling of fulfillment and hindsight at the end of the year, when you look back at everything and you'll see, okay, so something got in my way. It caused delays to get me to where I want to be in love, but I think that as a detour, it sort of helped me grow. And I think that it helps you actually to win over someone else who would have not been won over. So you're going to gain an extra friend or an extra ally, or an extra energy that comes to terms with things. And without these circumstances, I don't think that they would have seen that part of you. So, just believe that if you've been shaken up by a situation, honor that within yourself. Don't start defining yourself by it. Like, don't start blaming yourself for it. Allow those feelings to go. And also welcome in feelings of in which positive energy is being directed to you, Virgo. in which people are reaching out and forming good connections, where you may be expecting something bad to happen, but actually something really good would come through. Okay, so I hope that was fun. Thank you guys so much for watching. And so let me know in the comments below who's going to go next. The one with the most likes is going to go next, probably tomorrow or in a couple days. Thank you so much for watching. Have a nice day. Take care. Bye.